my goodness, school is about to get back in session. After school programs are going to get restarted for the new season, and we're off. So let's take a breath before all the students gather in the space with you and think about the second strategy we have to connect with young people. In the previous video, I talked about the greeting strategy, and in this one, I want to talk about the power of connection and starting things off right, which means names. Yes, names are important. How to pronounce them, using them so that young people feel seen and valued and known. It is ever so important, and we all know we need to get those names down, and that is not easy for all of us. If you're new to the channel, I'm Susan. Welcome. Subscribe so that you don't miss out on tips. So let's get started. Name games. There are a few that I love, and so I'm going to share some of those with you now. One is just simple alliteration. I learned this one in a school, and I call it Spinach Susan because, you know, it's my name. That's how I can remember the alliteration game. And the setup is simply that you're going to a picnic. And what are you going to bring? And it has to start with the letter that starts the same as your first name. So I would go, I'm going on a picnic, and I'm bringing spinach, Spinach Susan. The next person says, I'm going on the picnic, and I'm bringing artichokes, Artichoke Ann. And then you repeat, Spinach Susan, Artichoke Ann. And you continue on in that vein. If alliteration is a trick that works for you, that helps you to remember, then use it. It doesn't have to be a picnic, it can be something else. Action, you know, I love action because it gets them all involved with their whole body and they're moving. So it can simply be something like answering the questions, something that they like to do. I'm Weston and I like to move. And so Weston's moving. And the next person might go, I'm Lucy and I like to make people laugh. Ha 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 ha. And so then they go, moving Weston, laughing, ha 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 ha, Lucy. You get the idea. I'm making this up on the cuff, so it may not be the best examples. But them doing some motion to illustrate what they like. So maybe they like to watch movies, or maybe they like to read a book, or they like to swim. But they just pick something to represent something they like to do and say their name. Now, my absolute favorite name game, I call names in action. And so you introduce it by telling everyone to think about how many syllables are in their name. So tell me, how many syllables are in Susan? 2. Great guess. Susan, 2 syllables. So I have to come up with a motion for each of those syllables to introduce myself. So I will say, I'm Susan. Make sure they say the name first out loud just regularly so everyone can hear it. And then they do the motion to break it down with their motions. So I'm Susan, and I might just go Susan. And the whole group will then say Susan. Then we go to the next person, and maybe it's Ann, and she goes, Ann. And so everybody goes, Ann, and then they start back at the beginning. Susan, Ann. And you keep going, and remind them they have a whole body. So they have a head, they have some shoulders, they have feet. You can't see my feet, but I just stomped them. They have hips they can swivel, wrist, snaps they can do. You have a whole body to do a whole bunch of motions. I do recommend that you have 12 or less people in a group if you have a big group. Otherwise, it's going to be a really long time to do this. But that one's a very fun game, very cool, really solidifies when you hear the name and then break it down by syllable. It solidifies the names in people's heads. And for you as the facilitator, if you have some names in your group that are hard to pronounce, you're going to learn to say it correctly, which I think is super important to show that we care, to take the time to learn how to say names that might be unfamiliar to us. So the alliteration, just picking an action with their name, or the names in action. Those are my 3 name games that I want to give you today to help you start the group off right by learning and using names. Thanks for tuning in. See you next time. Be sure to like it and stay tuned.